In the deep jungles of Central America, the stone pyramids of the Maya rise toward the sky. For hundreds of years, this was one of the most advanced civilizations on Earth. The Maya built huge cities, created a complex writing system, and understood the stars better than anyone. But then something happened. Around 1200 years ago, their greatest cities in the south were suddenly left empty. The people seemed to vanish, leaving their temples and palaces to be swallowed by the forest. For centuries, we have asked, who were the Maya and where did they go? Now, a powerful new science is giving us answers. By studying the ancient DNA locked inside their bones, we are finally reading a story that was lost to time. What if the story of the Maya collapse was not about a mysterious disappearance at all, but a story of survival written in their very genes? To understand who the Maya were, we have to go back to their very beginning. For a long time, scientists believed that farming, the very thing that let the Maya build their great civilization, was an idea that spread slowly. They thought one group of people simply taught their neighbors how to grow crops like maize, also known as corn. But ancient DNA has shown us something far more dramatic. The story of the Maya does not start where we thought it did. Scientists looked at the DNA from very old human bones, found in rock shelters in Belize. Some of these bones were more than 9,000 years old. The DNA from the oldest people showed that they were related to other early groups who spread across the Americas. But then, around 5,600 years ago, everything changed. The DNA shows that a new group of people arrived. This was not a small group. It was a huge migration that came from the south. These newcomers were most closely related to people who live in places like Costa Rica and Colombia, people who speak languages from a group called Chibchan. This was a massive movement of people, and they left a permanent mark. Their DNA was so widespread that it makes up more than half the ancestry of all later Maya people, including the millions of Maya who are alive today. In a way, they became the new foundation of the Maya people, and they did not come empty-handed. The exact time these people first arrived is the same time we see the first proof of the big changes to the land. We see evidence of forests being cleared to make way for farms, and we see the first appearance of fully grown maize, along with other crops like cassava and chili peppers. These crops were already being farmed far to the south, where these people came from. Even the Maya words for maize seem to have come from the Chibchan language. The people and the knowledge of farming arrived together. The Maya civilization was not just built by the first people who lived there. It was born from the mix of these original people and saw a great wave of migrants from the south who brought the seeds of a new way of life. This new farming technology allowed Maya populations to grow and build incredible cities, but as their society grew more complex, so did their beliefs. And deep within the most sacred places, DNA has uncovered a shocking secret about their rituals, one that connects directly to their creation story. In the powerful city of Chichen Itza, there is a famous deep water-filled sinkhole called the Sacred Cenote. For many years, stories were told that the young women were sacrificed there to please the gods. But near this well, archaeologists found another sacred place, an underground chamber called a chultun. Inside, there were the bones of many people. For decades, their true story was a mystery. Now, ancient DNA has finally made these bones speak. Scientists were able to get DNA from 64 of the people buried in the chamber. The results were a complete surprise. The old stories were wrong. Every single person sacrificed there was a boy. Most of them were very young, between 3 and 6 years old. But the DNA revealed an even deeper secret. Many of these boys were related to each other. About 1 of every 4 boys was a close relative, like a brother or a cousin, to another boy in the burial. And then came the most amazing discovery of all. Among the victims, scientists found 2 pairs of identical twin boys. Why were they sacrificing brothers, and especially twins? The answer is not in the ground, but in the pages of the Maya sacred book, the Popol Vuh. This ancient book tells the story of the hero twins, 2 brothers named Hunahpu and Xbalanque. In the story, the twins journey to the underworld, a place the Maya call Xibalba. The underground chamber where the boys were found was seen as a doorway to that same underworld. In the myth, the hero twins face the lords of death. They trick the gods through cycles of sacrifice and being brought back to life. In the end, the twins defeat death itself and rise into the sky to become the sun and the moon. Twins were at the very center of the Maya story of creation. The discovery of twin boys sacrificed at an entrance to the underworld cannot be a coincidence. It seems the Maya were bringing their most sacred story to life. They were not just telling the story of the hero twins, they were reenacting it with real children, perhaps to honor the gods and keep the world in balance. These complex rituals were part of a thriving civilization supported by a huge population. For centuries, the Maya world grew and grew, but their DNA also recorded a hidden warning sign, a biological alarm bell that started ringing long before the first cities were abandoned. The success of maize farming allowed the Maya population to explode. Using special techniques, scientists can look at fragments of ancient DNA and estimate how many people lived in the past. This genetic history shows that during the Classic period, from about the year 250 to 900, the number of Maya people grew and grew. In the great city of Copan in Honduras, the population reached its highest point around the year 730. Scientists estimate that at its peak, about 19,000 people were part of the city's gene pool. The total number of people living in and around the city was likely even bigger. This huge population was a sign of their success. They had to learn to manage the land and feed tens of thousands of people. But the DNA tells another, darker story. Just 20 years after that peak, around the year 750, the genetic history shows a sudden change. The population curve takes a sharp turn and plunges downward. The number of people started to fall, and it fell fast. This was the biological beginning of the collapse. The great stone temples and palaces tell one story. They show us that the Maya stopped building big projects in many southern cities after the year 800. But their DNA tells a secret story. For at least 50 years before the last stones were carved, the Maya people were already in deep trouble. Crucially, the DNA shows that no new group of people came and took over. The genes of the Maya people in Copan stayed the same. It was not an invasion that caused this, it was something happening from within. Their world looked strong on the outside, but their population was shrinking. The system that had supported so many people for so long was beginning to break. They had pushed their farms and their environment to the limit to feed everyone, from the farmers in the fields to the kings in their palaces. The kingdom was stretched thin, a society balanced on the edge of a knife. All it needed was one final push to send it over. That push came from the sky. The Maya population was already under stress. There were too many people and not enough resources. Then, the weather turned against them. By studying minerals from the bottom of lakes and in caves, scientists have created a weather report for the ancient world. It shows that between the years 800 and 1000, the Maya lands were hit by terrible droughts. These were not just dry years, they were mega droughts that lasted for decades. One study of a cave formation showed a period of drought that lasted for 13 years in a row. For a civilization that depended on rain to grow its maize, this was a catastrophe. 13 years without good rain meant 13 years of failed harvests, 13 years of hunger. We can see exactly how this disaster destroyed a Maya kingdom by looking at the later city of Mayapan. Historical records tell us that Mayapan fell apart in a civil war between the years 1441 and 1461. But DNA and archaeology tell us the trouble started much earlier. Climate records show that a long drought hit the area in the 1300s, a full century before the city's final end. Archaeologists digging in Mayapan found mass graves. The bones in these graves showed signs of terrible violence. When scientists dated these bones, they found that they were not from the final war in the 1400s. They were from the 1300s, exactly when the drought was happening. The story became clear. The drought caused food to become scarce. Hunger created stress and anger. This turmoil was used by rival royal families, the Xu and the Kokam, who were fighting for power. The conflict exploded into violence and massacres, tearing the city apart from the inside. This is what likely happened across the southern Maya land centuries earlier. The collapse was a perfect storm. A society weakened by overpopulation and pressure on the land was hit by a climate disaster it could not survive. The Maya kings were seen as powerful figures who could speak to the gods and ensure good harvests. When the rain stopped and the food ran out, the people lost faith in their rulers. The system of kings and priests had failed. This led to warfare, rebellion, and finally the decision to walk away from the great cities and the failed way of life they represented. The great cities fell silent. The kings were gone. For centuries, this was seen as the end of the story. But the most powerful revelation from ancient DNA is that it was not an ending at all. The Maya people never left. The word collapse makes us think of a people who disappeared, but the ancient DNA of the Maya proves this is a myth. The single most important story written in their genes is that they are still here. This is a clear, unbroken genetic line that connects the very first people in the region to the Maya of the great classic cities, and all the way to today. DNA from the sacrificed boys at Chichen Itza, from the nobles and commoners of Copan, and from the earliest farmers in Belize, all show a direct family link to the 7 million Maya people who live today in Mexico, Guatemala, Belize, and Honduras. What collapsed was their political system of big city-states. The people themselves did not vanish, they survived. They moved away from the failing cities, formed smaller communities, and adapted to a new world. It was a massive change in their society, but it was not an extinction. After surviving the collapse of their kingdoms, the Maya faced one last great challenge. When the Europeans arrived, they brought new sicknesses that the Maya had never been exposed to. Sicknesses caused by germs like salmonella swept through their communities, causing terrible epidemics. But again, the Maya people endured. Their DNA shows us how. Scientists compared the genes of the ancient boys from Chichen Itza with the genes of Maya people living in the same area today. They found a fascinating difference. The modern Maya have much higher levels of a specific immune gene called HLA-DR4. This gene helps the body fight off salmonella. This is a genetic scar left by history. The people who had this protective gene were more likely to survive the epidemics. They passed this gene on to their children. It is a clear sign of survival of the fittest, written in their DNA. From their mysterious origins to the fall of their cities and the challenges that followed, the story of the Maya is not one of collapse. It is a story of resilience. Thanks for joining us on this journey into the past. If you found this story incredible, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe to our channel for more deep dives into history. What part of the Maya story surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. And don't forget to turn on notifications so you never miss our next exploration. Thanks for watching, and we'll see you next time.